We are now live. Happy New Year, everybody. We hope you're all tuning in. Hello, Mark. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, and good to see you. It's been a while.
I know. You know, working from home, we never get in the office now.
So these Zoom calls and these types of meetings are just the norm now, aren't they? So, but it's great you can do it, isn't it? And we've got some superb guys coming on tonight, so I'm really looking forward to this, actually.
Oh, well, the green room at the moment is absolutely full. Now, I am hoping that we've actually got people in the feed. Yes, we've actually got 16 people watching. So hello, everybody. Before we actually say who's coming on the show this evening, and we've already got comments already, so I'm going to put them in the feed, everybody. Huge thank you, everybody, for commenting. Keep your comments coming. Keep your questions coming in as well, because we do really have some fabulous guests. Now, Mark, how's the year been?
That's a great question. Well, it's been pretty straightforward, and nothing much really to report on. Pretty, normal stuff. Well, perhaps not, actually. Yeah. I mean, I don't know about you, but this conversation I seem to be having with just so many people, not just in the fishing world. I mean, friends, family, the whole lot. And then you end up just shaking your head thinking, what happened? That's been probably the most ridiculous, bizarre, frustrating, lots of different adjectives year that we've ever had. And I'm quite glad to see the back of it. I mean, brutally honest, I'd bring on 2021 because it can only get an awful lot better. But no, it had lots of good highlights, though. I mean, broken apart, despite all the concerns of the virus and the horrible things about people getting ill and amongst it. For me, if you just concentrate on us in the fishing world, well, what a year. I mean, typically I did, and I'm sure many of the guys that will come on tonight did, started their fishing way back in January. None the wiser of just, what was to come round the corner. Opening day, January the 15th on the Tay. Brilliant fun, absolutely cracking fun. Quickly followed by the D and the Tweed on the 1st of February. Everybody's starting to get a little bit excited because the weather's starting to turn and the days are getting longer. And then you get to March, and then it's just boom. The shutter came down. We all got told to stay at home, and we thought it'll probably just be for a couple of weeks. We'll be back fishing soon. And then March was quickly followed by April in lockdown, and then May in lockdown. And it's like, yeah, blimey, for us as a company, as you know, and I'll tell the rest of the guys, those 3 months were quite simply the most horrendous 3 months we've had business-wise since the company was actually formed. And it's not a surprise because, of course, you couldn't leave your house. You didn't want to book fishing. You didn't know when you were going to be able to get back on the river. So we just had to sit tight and hope that, someday we would get back. But what we had, though, was a really busy 3 months because there was a heap of people who were supposed to be fishing and couldn't get fishing, obviously. So we had to obviously try and either rebook them for later on in the season or refund them. And actually, that was hundreds and hundreds of bookings. So we always say huge thank you for guys to use FishPal to book the fishing in the first place. We then ended up having to resort all those booking again, which was busy. It was really, really busy.
But the thing was that we actually started doing these lives, and the guests that we've got on this evening, and huge thank you to all the guests that are on. And we've even got guests that we've had on that have come into the feed, like Lucinda Ewing. The fact that we're now speaking to people in so many different ways this year has been so positive as well, hasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we introduced our help page, which I think, we thought we had to find a different way of people getting in touch with us because I'd shortened the hours that we ever on the phone quite deliberately because we were, not all working from the office. It was more difficult. And then we seemed to get into the swing of things, that working quite nicely as well. But I tell you what was the most memorable piece for me was when the 28th of May finally came and went, and we actually all did manage to get back fishing. It was like we were just been released from prison. It was just a stamp, was trying to get to your local beat to try and get, some kind of fishing. And boy, the fishing good. I mean, I kind of thought it was going to be good, obviously with lockdown, nobody's fishing, all streams, all rivers rested for 3 months. Kind of perfect if you think about it from a fisherman's perspective, if indeed we're going back to fish. And then not only was it great to start with, it actually kept going and going. So the initial first couple of weeks when we thought it would be good anyway became the first couple of months. And actually those who'd got back fishing, because it was so good, started to book a heap more fishing as well. So on the back of the 3 worst months, we then had our 3 biggest months ever in bookings on FishPal, which was, it was just great to see. And it was just such an enjoyable time when you actually had some stories of remarkable feats and catches and some beautiful fish. I mean, I don't, you've seen them, man, obviously, but cranky, some of them were big monster cracking silver fish. And I suppose for me, though, in amongst all that, the highlight is we had grills back in the rivers. And oh man, that was just so great to see and getting amongst them. It was beautiful. I loved it.
Well, we are our guests that are on this evening. They have all had some really a good season. And through the first hour, we have got on Talking All Trout, we've got Gilly Bate, Paul Procter, Pete Tyas, Alex Jardine. They're all sitting in the feed at the moment. And then we're going to go to Scotland, everybody. And we've got Allan Liddle, who is currently tying a fly, I'd like everybody to know. And we've also got Simon Barnes, the wonderful Simon Barnes. Then we're going to be talking sea trout. And we've got one of the world's best sea trout anglers on. Now, we have also got a wonderful competition as well this evening. We've got Steffan Jones coming on, and I've got a signed copy of Steffan Jones's book for you guys. Somebody's going to win this. So with Steffan, we're going to talk sea trout, but we're also going to get Ali Hutchins on, and we're also going to get Allan Liddle back on as well, because them pair have been doing some really great fishing together and a lot of writing about it. Then we're going to talk about women, everybody, because there's a rise in female anglers out there. And I've got Dani coming on, I've got Gilly coming back on, and obviously myself. Apologies for Philippa Haig. She hasn't been able to make it this evening. And then after 8 o'clock, everybody, we have salmon. Salmon and grills. We've got Ali Hutchins joining us, Dani, Scott Mackenzie, and Ian Gordon as well. And you're going to be coming back as well, Mark. Now, competition. Competitions. I'm going to let everybody know what the competition is. Just like this feed, share it to your friends to be in with a chance of winning a signed copy of this fabulous book. We've also got a fishing mug from Fishing Mugs, plus a poster, which is absolutely beautiful. Salmon, a classic salmon fly in a poster. And also, as well, as these are hot off the press, even Mark hasn't seen these. We've got some FishPal mugs. We've got some FishPal hats. So we're going to, and if anybody can come up with a really good quote for me, I'll also give another FishPal hat to somebody else. And we've got lanyards as well. So, that's the competition. I'm going to be putting that through on a ticker tape. So I've got a question from James Thompson, which I'm going to ask at the end, Mark, and it is all about worst situation. Does anyone of you think how soon we'll be fishing again? So James, not forgotten that question. We're going to ask that at the end. Okay, so I'm going to say au revoir to my boss. And you, thank you.
It's going to be great. Yeah, we've got some real people coming on. So we have to go to bed at some point tonight, remember, and that's the only thing I would say, given who's talking. So looking forward to it. Shout if you need me during this at any point in time, and I'll absolutely stick in and ask a couple of questions myself, I think. So good on you for putting it together, though. Super.
My pleasure. And can I just say, this is actually a glass of orange juice, everybody. It really does look like a glass of fizz. So I'm really thrilled with that. So I'm going to let you go, and I am going to get our first guests on. And please, everybody, please, can you just ask whatever questions you want to ask? So we'll see you in a bit, Mark. Okay.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye-bye. So I am going to bring in our first guest. They're all from the south of England because, you know, the south of England has actually been fishing really well. And these are my wonderful friends down in the south. I've got the wonderful Gilly Bate. Hello, Gilly.
Hello.
I've also got Alex Jardines, and I'm thrilled that we've managed to get Alex on as well.
Hiya.
Hi.
We've got Paul Procter. Hello, Paul.
Hi, everyone. I'm not in the south. I live in the north.
Oh, I forgot. Yeah, you're spending a lot of time in the south, though, which is brilliant. We're loving it.
Spending a lot of time on the chalk streams, trying to extend the season.
And I've also got one of the editors of a rather lovely publication that comes out quarterly, Fly Culture, Pete Tyas. Hello, Pete. How are you this evening?
Hey, Anne. How are you? Happy New Year, everyone.
Happy New Year. I am... Everyone here, we've got like some of the best trout anglers in the country. Guys, how has the year affected you? Paul, what was the year like for you?
I've got to go first, as per usual. You're like Tyas, he always makes me go first. Yeah, well, I've got to say, when I came back from Chile from an Odyssey trip, right on the cusp of lockdown, rubbing my hands together, thinking there I was sort of sharpening up my casting skills, honing it, everything, going to walk right into the start of the season, and consequently that didn't happen, as we all know. So I think it was 14th of May, wasn't it, when lockdown sort of freed us up? I'm almost certain.
Yeah, it was in England, but in Scotland, everybody had to wait a little bit longer, Paul.
That's right. Yeah, well, certainly in my neck of woods, 14th of May. And yeah, from then on, obviously, we were all keen to get out. It was just absolutely sublime. It's like Mark says, I suppose the rest didn't do the rivers any harm whatsoever. And the fishing this year, I mean, you can't just say it because of that rest period. There are other knock-on effects we can consider with the insects and things like that don't have that instant change. But for whatever reason, the fishing this year has just been sensational in this country. Obviously, with lack of travel, it's meant for me, I spend a lot of summer up in places like Iceland and Russia. But this year, sadly, without that, I've focused a lot more on my home waters more than ever. And yeah, it's just been fantastic. It's absolutely been fantastic.
And Pete, for you, obviously you've got a magazine to put together. What's the year been like for you?
It's been, as Paul says, an interesting one and challenging for everyone. It was really fascinating waiting for that green light to be able to fish again. And I was in the garden practicing casting, thinking about fishing, sorting out my fly boxes and everything else that went with that. A nice distraction was putting the magazine together as well. So that was nice. And during lockdown, managing to get that out to people as well. So hopefully that helped in some small way. And I'd like to say what you're doing tonight as well, Anne, has been really important to people during these difficult times, that people can, interact with other fly anglers and talk to them about those, about the things that mean so much to us and the thing that we enjoy so much. So, but the fishing, when I hit the river, I had that sort of sense that I was going to run to it like a maniac, cast like a buffoon, and I managed to hold it together, frankly, which I surprised myself and started my season. It was funny because down in Devon here, early on, in March, you're sort of kind of thinking, I know Alex and I have talked about fishing early season down in Devon, and sometimes you think there's no fish in the river, but that later start had the fish rising, and it was a kind of nice sort of starting your fishing season in a T-shirt as well, which I really, really enjoyed. And it made not being able to travel as well, your home water, I think made it really important to all of us and made you love it so much as well, even more so probably.
And Gilly, the year for you, every time I've spoken to you, you have been talking about people wanting to go fishing who have never fished before.
Yeah, it's never been so busy. I've never had so many lessons. I've never taught so many children. I've never taught so many women. I've never taught so many men. I mean, it was really tough at the beginning. It was scary because we normally start 1st of April with lessons. Everything was cancelled all the beginning of May, and with people traveling from all over the world coming here to fish, and it was frightening. But actually the knock-on from it, and as everybody's saying, the fact that we didn't start until later, I think it was a really good thing. And we were so lucky. How lucky were we that fishing was opened up? All these other sports that people just couldn't get out. And I think people were desperate to get out to the countryside, and fishing was the one thing that was opened up really early and also continued really late. You know, we've been grayling fishing locally, and it's still all been open. We've been unbelievably lucky. It's a good thing. It's a different thing, but I think we've seen more new people coming into the sport.
And Alex, congratulations, because you had a little baby this year as well, last year, didn't you?
I did. So it was a completely unusual year on all fronts. And we had our baby at the beginning of lockdown, so I had that 50% bad news and 50% good news at the same time. And probably those first couple of months when I wouldn't have been allowed to go fishing anyway, we couldn't go because the government told us we weren't allowed out. Sorry, one of the rare things that I managed this year was to go fishing with Paul up in Cumbria, which we've been talking about doing for years. And we actually made it happen this year, which is brilliant.
Well, also as well is that your dad, Grandpapa Charles, he wasn't able to see the little one, was he?
He wasn't. It was really difficult to begin with. Obviously, cutting yourself off from family at that time when you want to be surrounded by family. But I've actually been fishing with him today, which is quite nice. So we could at least keep up to date our New Year's tradition of going fishing together.
And your dad as well has a special message because he couldn't be on here tonight because you know how great he is with technology. I can see everybody laughing here. Anybody who knows Charles Jardine, we love you, but technology is not your forte. So, but he did want to thank everybody that has supported Fishing for Schools, didn't he?
He did. Yeah, no, it's been a tough year for Fishing for Schools to run. Obviously, with school being so disrupted, but he's soldiered on and he's made it function, and I think he's as enthusiastic or more so now to keep it running and make it bigger and better for future generations.
And we are sending you lots of love, Charles, and we hope to get to see you this year as well. Alex, you've been chalk stream fishing recently for grayling, but you've also been predator fishing because you've been pike as well, haven't you?
I have, yeah. It's a newfound thing for me. I still prefer my trout and grayling, I have to say. Putting my fingers near teeth is not something I want to do. But it's been really successful, and I've got into tying my own flies and for pike, which is tricky. I'm used to tying size 20s, but tying a 4-row with lots of material is actually really difficult. But yeah, I love it so far.
Fantastic. And you've also got the YouTube as well. You do that every other week, don't you?
Every other week, which is going really well. We've got a little competition running at the moment to win all the flies previously tied. All you need to do is hop on there and subscribe. But basically, it's a really quick look into my own fly boxes. I put the idea together. So many Fly Dresser Guild events weren't able to go ahead this year. So it's done in a similar format of taking you through different patterns all in one go.
And Paul, talking of Fly Dresser Girls, you actually tie on a lot of those, don't you?
Absolutely. Yeah, usually through the winter. I've got a couple coming up on Zoom, which will be interesting. I can sympathise with Charles. I'm not what you call some sort of techno geek either. I'm your nuts and bolts fisherman, really. But these will be interesting times. Can I just say as well, just on the back of what Pete said earlier, fair play to Jan back in spring. what you were doing, those sort of daily chats, that was a bit of a lifeline for us all. In fact, probably never known to man the beast before. I appeared twice, and it's simply because I couldn't go to a river.
I know. You and Allan Liddle. Oh, my goodness. I've got Allan Liddle tying a fly at the moment. So, but again, you do a lot with the Mackenzie rods. You also do a lot with Semperfly. How have what's happened during the year for you, and also for this year? What kind of things have you got? Anything coming up?
Yeah, well, hopefully this year. I mean, we're all pretty. I'm sure, I speak for everybody. We'll be glad to see the back of 2020. And I'm trying to be more positive looking forward rather than back in my life in general. Certainly on the Mackenzie front, we've got an exciting venture with fly lines just now, trout lines. A lot of hard work going in just over the last few days, and we're really testing them rigorously before we bring them to market. But I'm very excited about that. We've got some lovely tapers. And same with the Semperfly. We launched a lot of materials not too long ago, and they've just been so well received. Some really good product in there. In particular, the likes of the poly yarn for bodies. It just makes dubbing, well, in fact, you don't dub bodies. It just gives an effect of a dubbed body without actually dubbing. Nice shortcut. And we all do that as fly tyers. We look for easier routes and things like that. Yeah, you can say there are certain skill sets at the end of the day, like I was sort of weaned on paired wings or rolled wings for wet flies and things like that. These days, we rarely use them. We use synthetics and poly yarns. Two reasons. Firstly, they're easier to obtain in many respects. Secondly, you could argue they're a little bit more durable in terms of floatability, like poly yarns, for example, versus feather. So there's all them kinds of things to consider, and it is easy to forget that skill set as a fly tyer in terms of traditional tying skills. I think Charles did not too long ago some cat skills patterns and things like that, just getting back to where it is, and that's a good thing. It kind of boots us all up the backside as a reminder of where it is. You know, I know Pete likes sort of mincing about with cane rods and smoking cigars and things like that. And I love that. I love that. It's I know I'm teasing him, but sometimes it's just nice to wind it in or dial it back a bit and go back to what we didn't have. You know, I first taught myself fly tying. I'm a left-hander, as you know, and I all hail the left-handers. I taught myself fly tying, and I tie flies right-handed simply from looking at illustrations in books and things like that. My initial flies I tied, I didn't have a vise. I used to hold the hook in my hand, and I used bloody domestic cotton and things like that. You know, it was just crazy. Incidentally, that's orange juice, everybody. It's just a trick of the
And Pete, during the year, you've been doing podcasts. You've spoken to some amazing people. Recently, you were speaking to, was it Paul Whitehouse?
Yeah, I did. It's lovely to see the panel I'm on today. I've podcasted everyone there and thoroughly enjoyed that as well. And I know I'm trying to get you on as well, Anne, at some stage as well when you've got the time. But yes, I managed to track him down. It took some doing. But it was really interesting to chat to him about fishing and what it means to him, and that great success of that TV program and what that's done for fishing in a wider aspect as well. And I think that's been a fantastic advert for fishing. I know it's not a fishing program, but it's been really, really good, and it's portrayed fishing in a fun, relaxed way. And what many of us enjoy about it, the company of good friends on the water as well. And I think that just did a fabulous job, really. And it was lovely to be able to talk to him about those things.
And Gilly, with reference to that program and going back to your fishing as well, you fished a lot with the ladies this year, haven't you?
Yeah, I'm very lucky. It's taken I've been fishing for a long time, and basically to begin with, it was always with blokes, which is great, and I love being with the guys. But actually, I've now got some really good girlfriends that I go with, and I think anybody who watches some of the stuff I do on Instagram and things, it's not always about catching fish. As Pete was saying, like Paul Whitehouse, that's not really a fishing program. And I think a lot of his fish, it's not always about the fish. We all know that lovely line, isn't it? It's not just always fish that you're catching. It's about being outside and friendship and just watching. I can't remember who was saying about the insect life. I think it was Paul was saying it seemed better this year. I don't know. I think the whole world just seemed a quieter place. When the chalk streams opened, it was just such a privilege to be out there. And I think I took a lot more notice of just the joy of it, and not just about we've got to catch fish and I've got to guide and we've got to do this. I think it's made it's reset a lot of things, I think. Really.
And for this year, I know you've got a new website as well. Do tell everybody what your website is.
We've got Fly Odyssey as the company, which my business partner, he started up about, I'm going to get this wrong, probably 15 years ago. And that's a travel company for fly fishermen all over the world. And I then went into partnership with them on a chalk stream side about 5 years ago. But I was kind of lost in his big website, really. So we decided what I do is really just the chalk streams. It's trout, it's teaching. People come down, it's a journey. We all know that who fish. We start off maybe in a lake. That's how most people start catching. I don't know how the other guys started, but it's normally rainbows or coarse fishing. And then you kind of change and you go to a river. And so it's just kind of evolved. And what I wanted the website, the new chalk stream website, was to show that it is a journey that you're on, and it's not just about booking a day on the River Test or the Itchen or Nada or wherever. It's about starting that journey and where it can take you. It doesn't matter where it takes you, wherever you're happy. Some people just want to fish a lake or whatever, but it's going on that journey. So it's been great fun, and my daughter-in-law and son's girlfriend actually made the website for me, so they've now learned an awful lot about fishing. So it's been great fun. Great fun.
Gilly, I know you're going to be coming back a little bit later. 2021, where the people who are in this feed that want to go and fish in the south, where would you go? Give us a river and a beat.
Oh, goodness. It depends what you're after. I mean, there's just I don't know.
Where would you go? Where would you go?
Where would I go? We started the Anton this year, and I must admit, it's got very good insect life. It's a little bit more rural. And for me, for me personally, I actually want to head north and fish for wild fish. That's really my thing. But I think you can have a day on some of the beats down here and not just concentrate on the stockies. There are plenty of beats where, yes, they are stocked, but there's tons of wild trout. There's plenty of grayling. You're getting them on dry. There's insect life. And for me, that's what I would be doing, really. That's what I'm trying to encourage. I've got a lot of young children who have started going onto the river this year, and I'm actually seeing their all in fishing. It's kind of woken me up to, oh my goodness, it's such an amazing world. You forget it's just incredible fishing. We're so lucky, all of us.
And Alex, where would you recommend?
I'm probably heading straight back to the River Wiley next year as soon as the 2nd of April comes along. That's going to be where I'm parking my boots and I'm spending the season. It's been good to me this year, and I suppose you should never go back to where you've had a good year, but I can't help it.
So that's where you'd recommend, or we're going to let you go because it's now 7:30.
Yeah.
And I have perfect timing for you to go and put the little one to bed.
I know. We better go read him a bedtime story. So have a great 2021, everyone. And I hope we're all back out on the river soon.
Oh, well, take care, my lovely. And say hello to your dad for me.
Will do. Good to see you all. Bye.
Bye. Pete, same question to you. Where would you go?
Oh, it's an easy one. My home river, the Tor. in the West Country, Devon, just a wonderful stream, honest river, has, as Paul knows, some pretty nice trout in if you know where to look as well. And it's been, last year was good to me, and yeah, I'm just loving that little stream. It takes a lot to get me away from there, I have to say.
Oh, well, Pete, thank you so much for coming onto this feed. And everybody, if you haven't subscribed to this magazine, well, it isn't a magazine, it's a quarterly, beautiful book. If you haven't subscribed to it, I'm going to pop a feed in. Will you actually pop a URL in for me, the URL into the feed, and so that people can actually subscribe?
You're not going to ask me to do that, Anne, are you? Because I'm like
I'll do it.
Charles, I've no idea.
I'll do it. I'll let people know in the next FishPal newsletter as well, because it is wonderful. So thank you so much, my love, and we'll catch up for that podcast as well.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
You behave, Paul.
Yeah, Pete, lovely to see you, fella. Hope our paths cross pretty soon. I'm sure they will.
Yeah.
Take care. Yeah.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Oh, yes. I am now going to be adding our next guest. I've got Paul in because we're going to go to Scotland, and I know you spend a lot of time in Scotland, don't you, Paul?
I do. Yeah.
Yeah, and we've also, whilst I'm just popping them into the feed, and I've got Allan Liddle, who's still tying flies, and I've also got Simon as well. Both of the guys are still on mute, so don't worry, guys. You can't talk, you can wave. Huge thank you, everybody, for your lovely feedback here. And people actually said, somebody's actually said it's a great show. So thank you so much. That really does mean a lot. And also as well is that Norman, remember Norman, because he's in the Bahamas. He is still trapped in the Bahamas. He was trapped in the Bahamas during the first lockdown as well. I don't know if that's somewhere that anybody would like to be trapped. Maybe I think I should go there. What do you think, Paul? Oh,
you know what, Anne? It's a tough life, but I could take being trapped in the Bahamas just now, no problem whatsoever.
I know. Definitely. And we've also got as well is we've actually got Oliver Taylor. He said, can we catch up about a feature video they're planning for Scotland? So these are the guys that you need to be speaking to as well. We've lost Allan Liddle, though I am going to put, I've just unmuted. Oh, hopefully. We have, oh, there you go. Simon, Happy New Year. Bon année. Speak to me. This is when it suddenly goes all scary, everybody. Simon, have you muted your mic, honey? Simon, unmute your mic. We're just going to remove him out the stream and then put him back in. And I've got Allan Liddle back. Now, Paul,
yes.
Tell us a little bit about when you go fishing in Scotland for trout. It is some of the best fishing, isn't it? Sorry.
Not just saying it for Alan's benefit because he's here, but he and I have had several conversations, and we're both in agreement that I've been lucky to travel quite a lot in my fishing career, but we're both in agreement that what Scotland's got to offer in terms of trout fishing can't possibly comment on salmon, but in terms of trout fishing, it's world-class stuff. It really, really is. It's got everything. It's got wee burns. It's got big, broad rivers. Fly hatches are really, really good. And inevitably, it's pretty much all wild trout up there, which is, what we all hanker for. So it's absolutely sensational. Can't speak highly enough of it.
And we've also got the wonderful Allan Liddle. Before I actually ask you anything, Allan, Simon, you have unmuted your mic, but you've actually taken your picture off. So if you go out of the feed, then come back in again. That'll be brilliant. So I'm going to remove you. So let's see if he's in. No, you're going to need to, Simon. So he's out, he's back in. So anyway, Paul. Allan. He was doing this earlier.
Alan's trying to demonstrate to us all that he's been doing sit-ups and trying to show off these abs. something like that. I don't know.
No,
Are you there? This
Right.
is we go to Scotland and we lose our connection. Can I say, everybody, we are going to basically just outside of Inverness. So it's not the best connection. You live in the middle of nowhere, don't you, Allan?
no.
You could have said
No, I
yes. That would have helped me.
Yeah, I live in Moreyshire, which is between Inverness and Aberdeen. So yeah, we have limited internet. I'll need to go and put some more change into the
Okay, well, we've actually got Simon Barnes in the feed as well. And Allan, can you hear us?
Yes. Yeah.
Brilliant. What's the fishing been like for you for the last year?
Me personally, it's been absolutely fantastic. The fishing's been great, but probably because when we weren't allowed to go at the start, everything was locked down. It made you realise just how much that you actually missed the ability to go into the countryside and take part in what that you actually do. Yeah, I understand spiritualness and spirituality in that respect, and that's essentially what fishing is to me. I'm not a religious person by any means. But, the ability to be able to go there and be yourself when you're out fishing is really, really great. So when that came along, it was fantastic. Plus, we'd had such a wonderful spring, and the fishing was red hot right from the off. Yeah, so it was brilliant.
Well, we've had Sandy Howie come on. Good evening, Sandy, and he said Moreyshire is God's own country.
Hi, Sandy. Happy New Year to you, pal. Sorry. Happy New Year to everybody here as well. Yeah.
And we've also got Tracy Stronach, and so we've got the Stronachs on. I love the Stronach family. You've done a lot with the Stronach family during the last year as well. Obviously, we've got Cheyenne and Gordo. They've caught their first fish, their first salmon, sorry. And you've also taken them lock fishing, haven't you?
Yeah, proper fishing. Yeah. I've gotten off that salmon bug and into some real Highland wild trout fishing, which is what you're supposed to do.
All right. So, and I'm going to put in Simon into the feed. Hello, Simon.
Hello there. I hope you can hear me. Can you actually hear me?
We can now. Thank you so much. I'm just going to mute the mic for Allan whilst he's moving his camera. So, Simon, you're a rod manufacturer. You make some beautiful rods. How's the year been for you?
Well, it's been interesting. What I've really missed is being at the shows. I had one in January in Belgium, and then the BFFI in February, and then that's been it. And I've really missed them. Talking to people and seeing people and just chatting about fishing, my rods, anything. It's been a real miss. And at the moment, the one in Belgium is cancelled. BFFI is cancelled. Germany is cancelled. I don't know what's going to be happening this year. Let's hope we get some. If I don't, what I'm thinking of doing is, as you know, I have my own pop-up tent, and I may well try and do some pop-up shows at fisheries around Scotland and the north of England, if we can get to go. And people will have me, of course, because I need to try and drum up business somehow. Using social media hasn't. Can you still hear me?
Yes.
Using social media, etc., is useful, but it's nothing like talking to people direct, one-to-one, and having a chat about this, that, or the other, and actually having a go with the rod. So hopefully we'll be able to get some of that done this year.
And Paul, have you got any trips planned to come up to Scotland before you go? Because I know we're going to be losing you in a moment.
Well, obviously, try keeping me aware, but it depends how the next few months pan out in terms of that horrible word lockdown, doesn't it? Really. As soon as I'm allowed up there, you know, try keeping me away. I'll be straight there.
Well,
sorry, go on, Anne. Sorry.
No, go on, lovely.
Well, I was just going to say hi, Al. Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year, Simon, and Happy New Year to everybody there. Thank you for watching.
Good night.
On that note,
Thank you.
good night, everybody. Take care.
Good night. Well, that's it. Paul Procter, he has now left the feed. Allan, what fly have you been tying, my love?
I've tied a couple of hoppers, some of my favourites for the summertime there. I put a cow dung hopper, I put it on the social media yesterday, and it had a lot of good feedback. So the stuff was lying about the table there, so that's what I killed the time waiting to come on by tying a couple of more flies for myself.
Well, we've got Ali Hutchins. Pardon?
So just going back to what Paul said, Paul, yeah, you'll need to try harder than that, son. I think you might find that you'll have to try and ask better if you're going to allow to come up here, I'm afraid.
Well, we've also got Ali Hutchins sitting in the feed as well. He's currently tying flies, and I'm going to be. Oh, I've just lost Simon. So, Simon, I'm just going to move you off from this feed. Okay. So, unfortunately, we've lost Simon. So, I'm just going to be bringing in our sea trout guests because sea trout fishing. We've got some fabulous sea trout fishing in the country, and I am bringing in Steffan Jones into the feed, and I'm also going to be bringing in oh gosh, let me just remove that so everybody can see him. He's currently tying a fly, Ali Hutchins. So I'm just going to unmute the boys. Hi guys, how are you doing?
Hi Anne, how are you?
I'm well, thank you. I'm well. I'm so pleased I've got all three of you now in the feed. So, Steffan Jones, this book, I am rather loving this book.
I'm feeling left out. Yeah, but both of these gents behind the vice, I'm feeling like I'm letting the side down somewhat.
But the thing is that tell us a little bit about this, because thank you so much for very kindly donating a signed copy. I don't think people can see the lovely signed copy of this book. Tell us a little bit about the book.
I think we've lost Anne.
Haven't you? I've just got a little bit excited trying to actually get something into the feed. So do tell us a little bit about the book, please.
Well, it's been a few years in the making, and it was something I've been kind of planning to do for many years, but it was actually you kind of need a deadline to work towards, and my deadline was my daughter's first birthday, and managed to get it kind of published stuff by that. So it's a couple of years ago now since it essentially arrived on our shores and arrived in the tackle shops and all that. But it's it's essentially just my kind of experience over the years, be it from my own fishing experience or experience from guiding. I've been guiding. I'm sure you'll say, Anne, that I don't look old enough, but I have been guiding for 25 years now. So it's been a tough paper round. But over those years, you just see things. You learn and see things that you wouldn't kind of organically see if you were fishing yourself. So it's just years of experience with bait spinning, a spinner, fly, and then I managed to acquaintances over the years and people that I know and respect in the industry, managed to pull in people from all over the world to contribute some. Actually, there's some chapters in there from people across the world, people who are no longer with us, like Mock Morgan, and then fly patterns again from people, Scandinavian, Argentinian anglers. So it's a bit of it was a labour of love, but got there in the end, essentially.
Well, somebody's already said you must have started at the age of 5. For anybody that doesn't know about sea trout fishing in Wales, just give us a little flavour of the fishing in Wales for sea trout.
We're just lucky, it's a small country,
Mhm.
but if anybody's been to Wales, you'll know it's a wet country. We have our fair share of rain, but essentially, you have more or less a spine of the Cambrian Mountains and stuff down the centre of Wales, more or less. And out of there, you have a plethora of rivers flowing out. So, more or less every corner of Wales, you have a river of some description, and those rivers invariably hold sea trout. So yeah, they'll hold levels to various levels, but you have the principal rivers would be, or probably the 3 principal rivers would be the Dyfi, Towy, Tyvi, and I was lucky enough to be born equidistant between the Towy and the Tyvi. Basically amazing rivers to be able to access, but amazing kind of as a learning laboratory. Essentially, it's you couldn't ask for a better upbringing if sea trout, certainly sea trout, can't help but become your passion.
And for anybody that is in this feed or watches this again, how easy is it to go sea trout fishing? Because a lot of people see it as a part of the sport that we do at night.
It is. So it really depends. So yes, I would say that's if people want what I would call the true the sea trout experience from my perspective, it is that night fishing, because it's so different to virtually any other form of fly fishing you can do, and the pull of a sea trout at night, that is something that will never leave you, and also that is essentially the drug. They say that the tug is the drug and all that kind of stuff, but literally the take at night is something so special. But it really depends on the river levels, but also and actually with the book and stuff, I'm just pushing the boundaries a little bit, targeting sea trout on dry flies with nymphs and stuff in the daytime. So it doesn't have to be in the daytime, but certainly in the nighttime. But for me, the kind of a lot of the intricacies and what can make sea trout special certainly happens after dark. And there's several reasons for them becoming more active, and as a rule easier to target and easier to catch at night. But they're just a special fish, no matter when you target them or when you catch them, essentially.
Well, James Thompson, he didn't tell me where he's coming from, but he said he tends to find sea trout here in fast. You obviously know him because you're smiling. He tends to find sea trout here in fast white waters during the day, tiny flies like spiders, etc., for me.
They can be, and they can be in the daytime. You can target them more like a brown trout. So if you treat them more like a brown trout in the daytime, and actually one of the worst things you can do is actually target them like a salmon in the daytime. So they are very much more like a wily brown trout in the daytime. So you can definitely pulling small flies through the runs and riffles and stuff in the daytime. A falling flood, stripping sun rays, stripping small flies, all that kind of stuff. Just explosive fishing, especially if the fish are running or just passing from pool to pool. But I think they can be. It's not, you don't have to target them at night. I do think night fishing is something very special and very unique when you do experience it. It's not for everyone, of course it isn't, but
it can be quite scary. It's the only time I've actually I saw a salmon. I did it in the River Weir, and there was like a group of ladies. We did it as a ladies event actually a few years ago, and I had this sea trout jump. It was either a sea trout or salmon. It was so big. Do you know when you stand somewhere and all you can see is this white? I honestly, the most exciting experience in pitch black. All you can see is the stars, and the jump is just nervous. Now, talking of sea trout, we've got Allan, you fish for sea trout in Scotland, don't you?
Correct. Yep. Interesting. It was good listening to Steffan there, what he was putting across, particularly for what you would class the more traditional way of fishing for sea trout at night time. What was really good was that he has put that over in a way that shows how special that can be for its own style of fishing. Yeah. Up here, yes, night time, particularly if you're still get access to rivers like the Spey, etc., then that would be when you would traditionally head out to fish for sea trouts. For me, though, I fish for them during the daytime. If I'm on the river, then I would generally try and target them with dry fly or nymph. It's amazing how you can get, especially if fish are running, you can get a running fish, a poddy fish come into the pool, and suddenly these big trout start appearing. You almost undoubtedly know that that's going to be ones with silver jackets. Yeah. Other interesting thing as well, as Steffan says there, is that, look, I'm not entirely, personally, I don't really, yeah, we call them sea trout, but they should just call them seagoing rounds, to be fair. Yeah. And it's the same fish, essentially. But our trout's such a fantastic animal. It will capitalise in every single niche of the environment that it lives in. And undoubtedly, the ones that going to sea, getting the large protein hits at the food that they can get in there makes them such a special fish. So that takes me on to the next bit, is yes, I fish for them generally during the daytime on the rivers, but I much prefer to fish for sea trout in the salt water. Not only just in the estuaries where you would expect to find them, but then to try and hunt round about the Morey Firth where I live, looking for feeding areas where these fish are exploiting the bait fish stocks and the shrimp, looking for, well, essentially you're just trying to find where they're feeding and take it from there.
And the thing is with sea trout is that, Steffan, they don't go that far, unlike an Atlantic salmon that actually travels quite a distance to its feeding grounds. Sea trout do stay quite close to the coast, don't they?
As a rule, yes, but it can be very much river dependent. So
yeah,
without getting too technical, it's the 0 sea winter, 1 sea winter, and all this kind of stuff. So there are rivers, especially the ones in the northeast of England, which tend to have higher average size, but higher. So essentially, they're maiden fish. They can actually go further away, so even into the Baltic and stuff to feed. So as a rule, no. So a lot of the Welsh fish, for example, no, they just tend to go out into not that far out at all. But it can be nothing like the salmon's journey, nothing like that. But as a rule, yeah, it tends to be much further that coastal region where.
And in Wales, they're called sowin, aren't they?
Yeah, it's so in Welsh we would call them sewin. So you do have some no, that's right. But you do have some variances even from that perspective. So some of the North Wales rivers or mid to North Wales, so the likes of the Dovey would call a small, which some areas would call them heel or finnock or whatever, would call. So on the Dovey they would call them sewin, and anything above like 2.5-3 pounds they call them sea trout. But as a rule, it's so the Welsh name it would be sewin.
Fantastic. And I am so pleased that everybody is now starting to add people's names into this feed. So we're now starting to get people wanting this fabulous book. And we've actually, talking of sea trout and talking of trout men, we've just had Stevie Munn come onto the feed as well to say hi guys, and a happy new year. Happy new year to Stevie Munn as well, because we love you to bits, Mr. Munner. So and we're hoping to get Stevie Munn on sometime this year on a live, which I will be absolutely thrilled if we can. Steffan, fishing this year, where is the place to be if you want sea trout in Wales?
It would be, so your principal three are definitely, and access wise, the W is a fantastic river. Access wise, it's actually quite a difficult river to get on. Tyvi, Towie. So if you're just traveling down the M4 corridor, first river you're going to come to anyway is the Towie. Very, very open access from private estates through to angling clubs. About 20 minutes, half an hour to the north from where the Towie more or less goes into the estuary section in Carmarthen. You then have the Tyvi, again, just angling clubs. So my local angling club, Henderson Angling Association, we control something like 30 miles of the river. So lots of angling clubs, and you're talking about £25 a day, or 75 pounds a week or something. So it's relatively good value for money. But outside of that, there's a lot of unsung heroes in Wales. So outside of your principal rivers, and it's the same if you go to Scotland, wherever, you always have your mainstay of rivers. But then you have in Wales, the likes of the Conwy up in North Wales, the Mawddach coming down, Ystwyth, Rheidol, Ogmore, Tawe, Neath. There's so many different rivers, and all of them, virtually all of them, have fantastic angling clubs that look after the rivers and also make it very friendly and open access to visiting anglers as well. So it's fantastic value for money and very open access.
Well, I've thank you for that. I've left this comment on because somebody's actually come to us from Newfoundland as well. So good evening, John, from Newfoundland, who has said that is that the Dani? Have I said that right? I'm from Stoke.
Dani, yeah.
I'm from Stoke.
Yeah, very good.
So he's actually said that on the Avon Peninsula in Newfoundland, that fly works well. Now, talking of Newfoundland, I'm just actually popping into somebody who's just still tying a fly in the feed. I think I've still got him on mute as well. So I've unmuted him. Good evening, Ali Hutchins.
Hi, Allan. How's things?
They're well, thank you. We have somebody on here from Newfoundland. Now, you were planning a trip there last year, and you're going there this year, aren't you?
Yeah, hopefully. I'm sorry, I'll just stop this tying. I was just listening to some of the stuff Allan Liddle was saying and Paul Procter about the brown trout, which and having a go at the salmon, which made me laugh. I think that's quite funny, actually. They're only kidding themselves on. They love it, really, Anne. Especially Procky, when he comes up here, he pretends not to try and target them and then catches them. And there's Liddle putting a big thumb down. I've fished more with that man on the top of the screen there than most folk in the past couple of years. But yeah, Newfoundland was supposed to be last year, and back to subject. And as you and I have had a long discussion before, the coronavirus stopped that happening. And hopefully this year everything will go ahead. We've got a few folk coming with us, and so I hope it happens for them too. But yeah, I'm looking forward to going. Should be good fun. Brook trout, something I've not sea run brookies over in Newfoundland. I'm looking forward to having a go at them on the top, as well as dry fly fishing for salmon. So yeah, could be a good one.
Well, there you go. And also as well as the Dani, that works well for the sea trout on the Avalon Peninsula in Newfoundland. So there you go. That's a top tip from somebody in Newfoundland. So thank you for that. I'm going to just pop Steffan back in. The feed has actually just gone quite crazy, everybody. So if I haven't mentioned you or if I haven't said anything, I apologize. Do pop it back in. If you want to win a signed copy of this fabulous book, all you've got to do, and also a fishing mug, a poster from Fishing Mugs as well, lanyards, the latest FishPal hat. All you've actually got to do is share this show and tag a friend. And also as well is that, we've got Rodrigo from Chile has come onto the feed, and he said, hello, Steffan. Okay, so he's so I'm going to be starting to pop a few more of these in here. So and we've also got Matthew Will, who is currently working offshore. Hello, Matthew. He had a fabulous year last year, and he's offshore, so he's actually coming in. And it also as well, we've also got a lovely comment from James. He said, your book is the best sea trout book since Mock Morgan and Graham Harris's book. So so that's just absolutely a lovely compliment. So 2021, tight lines. I'm going to let you go, and basically we will catch up with you soon, my lovely. Take care, my love. Bye bye.
Cheers, Steffan.
Bye. So, Allan Liddle, 2021, where are the top places to go fishing for you?
Well, the top place to go in 2021 up here and for trout would undoubtedly be the Devon River, the Spey River, both of which have got world-class trout fishing in them, and I am exceptionally lucky to live as close to the two of them that I do. I'm only literally 5 minutes from the Spey. And the quality of trout in these rivers is phenomenal. On top of that, I'm going to hedge my bets a little bit this year because I'm not really sure how international travel is going to go. So I have booked a holiday cottage in Orkney for 2 weeks this year. So that'll be the first time I've ever been as long. I just absolutely, if anybody that hasn't been to Orkney then for trout fishing, then it's not a place you put in your bucket list. You have to go. And if you don't believe me, Allan Hutchinson will back that up because I've even converted him into that trout fishing scenario as well. Yeah.
And I think
it was good.
Well,
it was a great trip, Anne. Allan took me over to Orkney with a group of mates of his from Isla a couple of years back, and Allan's absolutely right. Allan's a big mate of mine, that's no secret, so I don't want to embarrass him too much, but Allan actually renewed my my love for trout fishing. I'd actually forgot how much I'd kind of fallen out of love with it, targeting the bigger species, the proper species of salmon, but I thought I would go back in for the brownies, and Allan it was absolutely brilliant. We had a great trip, and I learned a lot from him. A lot of people forget that this man knows his stuff, and he can certainly find them when others don't. I mean, we could speak on a whole night out. Al.
Yeah, can I go back to that? Ali, I actually thought that you fell in love with me, but never mind.
Well, can I just ask? We've actually got Stevie Munn has said you better take him. So I don't know if you're taking Stevie Munn with you.
Yeah, Stevie,
he's so lovely.
Yeah,
and also,
I noticed there was a question there about what my favourite beat on the Devon was.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. That's what I was just going to. There's two questions actually. How do you rate the Eric?
The Eric River, I'll be honest with you, is one that I haven't fished very much. Possibly Ali will be able to answer that one better than me. It's I fished the loch, but I haven't fished the river. Well, certainly not in about 25 years anyway. But I know that I've got friends who really rate it. They rate it both for trout and sea trout as well. You're spoiled for choice in that part of the country. Perthshire area there, you've got an abundance of quality rivers that you can just lose yourself on, no bother at all. And that's just what fishing's all about. Yeah.
Well, we've also, with reference to the Devon, what's your favourite beat on the Devon? And that is Andrew McCrombie. So, okay, the feed is going so fast at the moment. I'm trying to keep them, so I can actually ask you those questions. So, what's your favourite beat on the Devon? Beautiful river, by the way.
No problem, Andrew. That's a good question. To be fair, it would depend. Depends on the height of the water, essentially. I love fishing the Devon. I love fishing the upper Devon in particular. If you have decent water height, if it's dropping lower, then I'll fish the lower beats. The entire river I noticed Kevin Barron coming on, good friend. Hi, Kevin. The entire river there is a trout paradise. And likewise, the two main tributaries, the Bogey and the Isla, are both in themselves trout waters and streams in their own right. Fantastic river, a fantastic system, and undoubtedly, whichever part you're on, you can do very well there. There are trophy trouts throughout the system, but we, working with the scientists guys, we're encouraging everyone to return these trouts. So that would be wild brown trout of 3 pounds and above would be classed as a trophy, but we're trying to encourage everything to 2 upwards going back. We've done scientific studies, electrotagged these fish, done a lot of work, and we've proven that these big trout are breeding together. So their offspring, maybe the genetics in that fish helps to produce more big fish. But or is it just the fact that their offspring, they spawn earlier? So it could just be that their offspring gets out first, so they get the first opportunity, everything. But undoubtedly, there's a chance there that if we were a bit not so cautious, then we could lose that. So putting them back again, guys. These things, I get multiple cut fish every season in the Devon, and they're fantastic. If you want a couple of beats to really look out for, if you want one at the lower end, then the Eden beat's absolutely phenomenal, and it can be if it's not windy. And likewise, the sort of in an upper section, then you're looking round about Avoca area, Rothiemay area on the river. Both these parts are brilliant bits of water. Bridge of Marnock as well, but I was a wee bit loath to say that because that's my bit. Yeah.
Well, tight lines.
Okay.
Tight lines,
Yeah.
my love. We'll see you in the year, and hopefully I'll get a chance to go fishing with you as well, because I know the Stronachs, they absolutely love fishing with you. And huge thank you as well for doing all the different things that you do with the juniors to get juniors into fishing. So huge thank you, Allan, and have a lovely 2021, my love.
Cheers, everybody. Thank you. Thank you very much, and we'll catch you again soon.
Well, that's Allan Liddle. I have 2 ladies in the feed with me now. Just before we go and chat about salmon fishing. Hello. Oh, I'm going to unmute you as well, ladies. Right. Just let me unmute both of them. Okay. So, hi, ladies. How are we doing?
Very well.
Hello.
I asked you to, obviously, Gilly, thank you for staying on, and also as well, Dani, thank you for coming on as well, because we're going to be chatting to you about salmon fishing as well with all the boys as well. So, but there's been a real growth in the last 12 months for women going fishing. Why do you think that is?
Dani?
I think traditionally women have always fished. There've always been women fishing, but I think that we're just hearing a lot more about it, and the more people who hear about it, the more people start to think, well, I want to give it a go.
And Gilly, do you think social media has made a real big difference as well?
Yeah, I do. I very much do, beyond all doubt. I think there's a lot of girls out there now doing stuff, and I just think everybody thinks it's accessible. And why not? Why not? I think I totally agree with Dani. I think if you go back historically, particularly with the salmon fishing, they were just very quiet about it, those Edwardian ladies, weren't they? But, you know, there's so many women out there fishing now. To me now, it's just normal. I don't think it's not normal anymore. I just think, oh, yeah, hi. It's not a girl fishing.
And Dani, obviously, because you're up on the Spey, what's it like there? Because I know the Spey does have a lot of women going fishing, doesn't it? Have we lost you?
It does.
No,
And again, as I said, you know, traditionally, I'm still here. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can, darling. I can. Yes.
Okay, phew. I've got a spaniel harassing me here. Sorry, I'm very intermittent internet, so it's a bit tricky. I've had to go onto the mobile because the laptop's given up. But no, traditionally, the Spey has always been perceived as a place for men of a certain age, tassel shirts, tweeds, very traditional. But we are seeing an awful lot more women coming into it, and also a lot of juniors coming in. One of the great things of 2020 actually was, I think you know, and a lot of people know, I do a lot of work with the River Spey anglers, and they're incredibly proactive, trying to encourage more people into the sport. And despite all the restrictions, we managed to run a really successful junior day where everybody landed at least one fish. And it was just an amazing experience to see. And I think off the back of that, more people are wanting to get involved. They've heard about the success. And this is, as Gilly was saying, social media has played a huge part. People see the pictures of young people or ladies, people that you wouldn't usually expect to see in the sport, enjoying themselves, having fun. They realize it's not something stuffy. It's something that anybody of any background, any age can get out there and have a go. And that's what it should be. It should be a sport that's totally inclusive for absolutely everybody. Anyone who wants to have a go, get out there and do it.
And Gilly, you're down on the chalk streams, and the one thing I love is the fact that you're fishing in your wellies, whereas further up north we're all in waders.
I do, to be honest, I quite often wear my waders, actually. I quite often, but if it's, you know, the thing with chalk stream, you know, it's Mayfly, it's June, it's summer. So, you know, you get girls out there in amazing clothing, but actually I've gone the other way. I've actually gone very green and dark, and because I don't want the fish to see me. So, but I just don't think it matters. I think it's I think, as Dani was saying, I think that whole kind of tweedy thing. I mean, when I first started, because I fish where Dani goes on the Spey, I love the Spey, my favourite river, and we didn't go this year, so next year we'll be there. But I just think it's
next year.
Get everybody out there and just go fish, catch fish.
And for any woman that's watching this, or for their husbands, partners, etc., how, somebody who, a female wanting to go fishing, how easy is it? And do you need all the kit?
God, no. I just think, you know, there are people tripping over themselves. You know, I started a long time ago, and even then, the guys were tripping over themselves to help you. And I think there are so many lovely, lovely guys out there. There are loads and loads of girls now doing it. And I just think if you want to go fishing, you know, contact me, contact Dani. There's loads of girls out there doing it. Just go into the tackle shops. You know, I'm in the chalk streams, we've got Stockbridge, you know, we've got Rob Gents, we've got Orvis, wonderful Orvis store. Go into any of those shops and they will sort you out. I mean, I don't think it's not accessible at all. I think it's unbelievably accessible now. There is, and there's, you know, the waders now fit. You know, I'm 5 foot. I'm pretty tiny, and I now get waders that fit me shorty and little, you know, so it's not a big deal now. I just think if you go anywhere and you think, oh, I'm feeling uncomfortable, you sadly, you've met the wrong person. Don't give up, because there are loads of us out there, and I don't think it matters. I think it doesn't matter whether you're a man, you're a woman, you're 9, you're 90, whatever, wherever you're from. It just doesn't make any difference now. Fishing, the fish don't know. You know, it's just get out there and catch them. You know,
exactly.
And on the Spey up in Scotland, it's accessible as well. And there's lots of ladies groups as well, which I love. Are you there, Dani?
There are, and more so as well. I am here.
Fantastic.
There's just a slight delay, but I'm still here. Yes, definitely lots more ladies.
And
Go
Gilly, I am going to let you go now, because I've got a question. Oh, I'm going to let you go. Have a wonderful, wonderful 2021, my love.
Thank you so much. And we'll catch up with you soon. Come and fish down south.
Goodbye. Yes, I will. I love to. Goodbye, darling. Bye-bye. Dani, we're going to get you back into the feed. I am just going to get Ali Hutchins back into this feed. So I'm just going to move you out, and we've got Scott Mackenzie sitting in the background.
Okay.
Oh yes, we don't have Ian Gordon yet, so hopefully he's going to be. I know I've got Simon still. Ali, I've had a question here from Les Routledge, and he says, I've been a massive fan of Ali Hutchinson's zonker flies for years and wondered how many on the panel use zonkers for salmon and sea trout, right? If not, why do you not use them more often? I also use traditionally tied flies, but prefer the movement of a zonker. So would you actually explain to us what a zonker fly is, please, Ali? Oh, just a moment. I'm just going to unmute you, my love. Hello, we've now got you. You're not unmuted.
What's you hear me now?
Yeah, it's my fault. Sorry, lovely. What's a zonker
Dani,
fly?
before I answer, is Dani Morey still there?
Yeah, she's staying on. She's coming on in a bit.
Brilliant, because I was just laughing when she said tweeds and a Tattersall shirt. I feel like a right old bugger now, because look what I'm wearing tonight. And I got, you know me, I usually have my check shirt on. I thought I'll dress up a bit for the show.
She's laughing as well.
So next time I'm on the spay with Dani, I can see you now. Next time I'm on, I'll not wear this bloody Tattersall shirt now. So that's your fault.
Oh, that's just brilliant. That is just brilliant. So this zonker, Les has said about zonker flies. Just explain what a zonker fly is for us.
Yeah, a zonker strips are usually rabbit fur that are dyed, and there's the fur's still on the skin. Skin's very soft. It's like a soft chamois leather. A lot of flies over Pacific's salmon are used zonkers, and we use them for predator flies as well. They give really good movement. The fur itself on the skin gives really good movement. So, for instance, egg-sucking leeches, so your usual ones with your pink head, yellow head, orange head with a black body of zonker fur, used for Pacifics quite a lot. And in this country, it's not that popular for Atlantics. It was usually probably about 4 or 5, maybe more, 5 or 6 years ago, I used to tie a lot of salmon flies with zonker in it. And I really, really like the action of it. I've got, so for instance, I'm tying spay fly, so I'm just using my time weld just now. So I don't know if you can see that one, but the typical spay fly, isn't it? You know, it's like spay fly, spring fly with the kind of black fur and the yellow head on it. So your D monkey with a heavy tube. If you tie that on a black zonker instead, it's actually really, really good. And funny enough, I didn't speak up much on the sea trout flies, but if I'm using sea trout flies as well, I quite like zonker strips. But yeah, they're like anything, I suppose, fashionable. They kind of fall in and fall out of favour. I'm tying myself up a load of intruders, which obviously I used to go to shows and tie a lot of, but I've not been tying them for a wee while, and I've got back into them again. And I'm just going to hammer them this spring, just for something different again.
And whereabouts are you going to be fishing in spring?
I'm not sure yet. I'm going to be, hopefully, depending on the lockdown, the D for the opening again. I'm going to head up, because I can travel with the current tier 4, because I live in the Highlands region. I'm going to probably go and have a look at Helmsdale. There's no opening days. Probably do the Thurso area as well. And you know the area I live in, I'm really spoiled. I mean, I can see Ian Gordon at the bottom there. The place we live in is God's country. I mean, you could choose, I don't know, at least half a dozen rivers and say you would go and fish them early season. I'd just have an absolutely fantastic time.
Well, I'm just going to go into this feed, and then I'm going to put everybody all together. We have now our salmon section on. Thanks, Ali, for answering that question on the zonkers. We have now got our salmon section, and we've had people specifically just tune in to actually hear you guys talk. So huge thank you to everybody who's actually popping comments into the feed as well. Any questions that you want to ask the guests this evening? Our final guests are Ali Hutchins, Ian Gordon, Scott Mackenzie, Dani Morey, and Mark Cockburn. So if you've got any questions that you want to ask them, please ask them now. And also, as well as, do not forget, everybody, tag a friend, and you've got a chance of winning a really good goodie bag of a book and mugs and everything. So, Ian Gordon, thanks so much for coming into this feed. Oh, I'll have to unmute him. I've got everybody
all muted, am I?
You are muted. You're all not unmuted now.
It's maybe a good thing that I'm muted, Les.
Ian, Obviously, last night we had you. You were doing a live with your Kaylee.
Yep,
That went down really well.
Yep, I was playing with my organ as per normal and hugged my knee on.
And obviously somebody's already asked James Thompson, Ian, get on the organ. So you've already got requests in already. Scott,
Oh dear.
it's nice to have you in this feed, Scott. Do speak to us so we know you are there.
We're live and kicking on, yeah.
This year, well, last year, how did it affect Mackenzie? How did it affect you with Mackenzie rods, and also as well is the fishing as well?
Yeah, it was a tough one for the whole world, and you know the lockdown and everything. But but when we came out of lockdown, as Mark was saying earlier, it was fantastic that so many people wanted to go fishing. And it really did, and so it was good. So it was a kind of roller coaster, if I'm being honest, because we had nothing going on. Then fantastic fishing, and for other business, it was okay. And you know, was it a big selling year? No, but what we have done is, and we'll probably talk about it later on. Did a lot of development. We've got a lot of new toys coming out for 2021. We really have. So behind the scenes, we were still really busy. It never stopped anyway. But the one thing, it probably gave us more time to start focusing on the things that we always meant to do, and even stuff now, like, because we've got two ranges of trout rod, we actually produce now more single-handed rods than we do double-handers. So, and as Paul mentioned earlier, we've got some fantastic new trout lines coming out, single-handed lines coming out that we've worked on for a good while now. And there's lots of stuff in development, which we'll probably go on about later on. But so it was a strange year. It was a bit of a roller coaster. I don't think we're out of the woods just yet, but the vaccine's coming, and I think it's going to be a good year. I do. I'll probably get slated for saying that, but here, the glass always has to be half full rather than half empty when it comes to fishing. But I think there's good times ahead. Yeah. There is, for sure.
Well, we've already got 3 questions for you. We've got Rodrigo from Chile. He said, when you designed a rod and specific line for the King of Serrano River.
Right.
So are you going to be, what rod would you say? Firstly, where is it? Where is the Serrano River?
Serrano is in the foothills of Forest de Pana. I've actually fished down there in Chile and Patagonia, and it's the most beautiful place you can imagine. You've got this mountain now. I live up in the Highlands. We've got some beautiful scenery here, but the Torres de Pana mountain range is fantastic. There's a big glacier there. It truly is fantastic. I was privileged enough there to fish there a few years ago. So for sure, a 14.9, it's a big river. It's a really cold river because you look behind you and you can see the glacier literally melting. So the water is icy cold. So it's literally, it's got that sediment in it from the glacier. It's freshly melted. So something like a 14.9, we do 2. We do the graphene rod, the Atlas 6-piece, easy to travel. That would be my first one. But we've also got a new nano rod NX1 6-piece range just coming out. They'll be here about March this year. Either of that rods would be fantastic because it's a big river and you're using heavy sunk lines. It's not for the faint-hearted. It's a true get in there up to your waist, icy cold water, belting a big sinking line out. It's exciting, and they've got some fantastic. It's all king salmon there. That originated from the fish farms originally and have gone wild. Fantastic situation, yeah.
And somebody's already said is, where can they go to try your rods before they buy one?
Well, the various tackle shops do them, and like Sportfish have a casting pool, as do Glasgow Angling Centre. Or if you're up in the Highlands, come and see myself direct. It's never a problem. We've also got countless guys right round, to be honest with you, that all have all the kit and will be more than happy to take them out. Tell them, give me a buzz, drop me a message on Facebook or email, and I'll hook him up with one of the shops or hook him up with one of our guys, and we'll make sure he's well looked after. Not a problem.
Well, I'm going to ask Ian. Ian, you last year? Not only did you have your new knees, because when we spoke in spring, you had new knees. You were like a bionic man. And did you get COVID?
What's that?
And did you get COVID, or did you get similar symptoms to it?
Well, I definitely had the symptoms of it, Anne, but I mean, did it progress into the full thing? It definitely didn't. I had but maybe I think it was in April when we were talking. I was really poorly with that type of thing, but whether it was or it wasn't, I'm just no sure, lass. But it certainly was a nasty little thing I had, that's for sure. But there's always a dram. You can always say a wee aperitif. That usually sorts things out.
Well, we've already got Pud has come on, and he said there's no Looney Tunes today. Obviously, Pud didn't tune in to you last night, did he?
He needed to be there last night to be able to see that. No Looney Tunes today, Loon. I'm sorry, Pud. Just mere shite talk. That's it.
All right. Now, we've actually, Stevie Munn said, cheers, mate. There's actually a question from Alistair, and it says, poll for the salmon panel. Does the brine fish better from Morey or Wester Alkils? You guys will know this question. We could ask Mark this one as well.
Mm-hmm. Wester Alkils, definitely. It's a great pool. Very difficult wading, though. Gee whiz.
It's definitely claimed a few folk, that ain't, Mark. No doubt.
The big pig and the wee pig, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. That's on the Wester Elkis side. And
I hooked the fish in there, and I just couldn't get to the bank to get it out again. I don't know what I was going to do with it.
I reckon the old superintendent Jimmy Gray reckoned that for the Wester Elkis side, in the heyday of spring fishing, when it was, because it's a perfect spring pool, it's got that really steady current and perfect depth as well. And Jimmy reckoned that in the heyday of spring fishing in the kind of 50s, late 50s, he reckoned that was the best pool in the whole of the river.
Yeah.
It was a tremendous pool, but certainly no for the faint-hearted. The way, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
No, and I mean, there was a few drams drunk at that time when people were fishing. It's still like the day, and I tell you, anybody that was heading for that pool wouldn't have needed to hit too much inside them.
Well, Les Routledge, he's actually asked the question about the flies you use. We've already asked Ali. I'm going to actually ask my boss, Mark. What's your favourite flies? Obviously, mine would be Caledonia flies. But what's your favourite flies to use, Mark, when you go salmon fishing?
Well, it depends what time of year you're talking about. But typically for me, if there's not a black and yellow that's first on, early on in the season, then I would be surprised because it's one of my absolute favourites. And I'm an old traditionalist. A gold body willie gun. My friend once said to me, if you had two flies to put in your box, what would it be? And he said the first one would be a gold body willie gun, and the second one would be another gold body willie gun. That was they're certs, absolutely. They nail them.
And Ali, what fly are you tying at the moment? Oh, I've muted him again.
I'm black and yellow.
It's a black and yellow. No, you're not.
Yellow, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, black and yellow. But I have to say, I kind of go against tradition, as you know, but mine would be a sunray, no matter what the season is and what the weather is, because I'll fish it off the bottom or off the top. Doesn't bother me. I'll always have one of them in my box, whether it's heavy or light.
Okay. And Dani, what's your favourite flies to fish with?
What's my favourite fly? That would depend on conditions and time of year. Can't go wrong early on with a good old willie gun. And then any of the traditional spay flies, the alley shrimp, the cascades, any sort of variation on those. A lot of people have always had success at the end of the season with Francis flies. I personally had persevered and finally caught a fish on one this year. So am I converted? Probably. I'll keep it in the fly box and take it out, but impossible to tie it down to just one. It's horses for courses and different flies for different rivers, different conditions.
And Ian, what do you like to put in on the end of your line?
Well, I'm a mixture of tradition and sort of new flies, but I kind of go a wee bit with Ali now. I really like fishing a sundry. It's exciting to fish, but I like fishing it on the top. But I mean, if I was advising guests, I get asked the question a lot, you know, and what fly, and you could go into, I mean, you could spend ages and ages answering questions, but I used to say the very quick answer was anything tied with orange, red, yellow and black, and just mixtures of orange, yellow and black. So the Willie gun is just a classic fly, you know. I mean, it's a go-to fly for everyone. But I really like the way that the Sunray fishes, you know, and fishing it on the top makes you really interested in fishing as well. You know, fishing it at different speeds along the top. It's magic, and I mean, obviously, the big draw for me is to see the fish coming up and taking it. You know, so I mean, unlike Ali, I don't fish it too much. I usually fish other stuff if I'm going down. But on the top, it's an awful exciting way of fishing. I really enjoy it, I have to say.
And Scott, there's a fashion now of people tending to fish with tube flies than the traditional fly. Are you going that way, fishing tube instead of just the traditional fly?
In the spring, Anne, for sure, what Ian and Ali saying there is 100%. What I would tend to do in the spring is, if you're lucky enough to have two rods, you know, I'm lucky enough I've got that many rods, I'm selling them. It's if you can set up two setups, one with a go-bodied willy gun, fish on a tip deeper, and then a sunray, as Ian said, near the top. The only thing I would add in the spring, maybe a little bit of yellow in it, just put a little bit of life in it. Here, that's only a personal thing, but what it will do, and trust me in this, guys, you know, it's amazing how, you know, you have to go down deep, spring fishing deep and slow, as you know. But with that sun rays, springers will come through the cold water to take it. They will almost off the surface. Now, would I go down and fish a normal willy gun or something like that near the surface of the spring? No, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't bother. But that fly will take them. It winds them up so much, it will take them from the depth. They just can't help themselves. They will come after. You can put a wee tip on and put it down a wee bit. But I'll quite often I have two rods set up, aluminium tube on my, so when I'm stripping it, it's not breaking the surface, it's just under. And as Ian says, it's all about watching the whole time. You're seeing that fish coming up and grabbing it. That's the most exciting part. Once it's on, unless it's a big one, you can, you know, the tug is a drug, as they say, and it is, and even bigger is seeing that fish, you know, some of them actually come out of the water and take it the way down. It's fantastic. You know, in a cold day when your hands are icy, like really cold, you see that really gets you going. So for me, two rods if you can, deep and slow, willy gun, go body down, deep and slow, and then strip me something. That covers both things, yeah, for me.
And the thing is, what was that? Who's that? Is that you, Ian?
I was just going to say, when I was speaking about that, and when Scott's saying that, it reminded me of the times that we were practicing for the distance casting thing, Scott. And I would fish quite a lot in the early part of the year. We just have a floating line, obviously, because that's what we're using, and then and just a bit of wool in the end of it, and the amount of kelp. And I mean, who's to say that there wasn't a springer came at it as well? But the amount of kelps that came up to that wool on the surface and actually took it. I mean, I remember actually playing. They must have, it was like nylon type wool that you use in fly tying. and it must have got stuck in the teeth of the kelp, and I was actually playing them, okay, just for a second or two with them coming up and taking this bloody wool on the surface, you know. So it's definitely something for fishers, I think, to think about.
Yeah.
You know, everybody talks about going down deep, and that's the way you get them, but there's no question in my mind that, well, that happened for sure, and what you're saying would back that up, Scott. So I definitely, there's no many things that salmon aren't interested in, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to put, and I'm going to take him off mute as well, Ali in the stream, because if anybody can hear a squeaking sound, that's Ali's vice or your bobbing wheel.
I thought it was new hips.
My dodgy shoulder, Scotty, off all that casting that you get me doing.
We've been asked, David.
Well, it might be off my tweed and my tartarsol that Dani was taking the mickey out. I'll need to take it off. I'm feeling all embarrassed. Scott, Mackenzie and Ian have let me down. Look, they're usually dressed smart. And look at the state of me. All dressed up, nowhere to go.
Hey, look at me.
The guilt on last night, man.
Can I ask? We've got David Robson has said, where do you fish? How do you fish a sunray and where? Fast or slow water? Ali, seeing as you're the big man at the moment, you're full. You're full. Mm-hmm.
My favourite, just going back to what Ian and Scotty were saying about that top and concentrating on it. The reason I like it is because it always brightens my day up, because when somebody tells me it won't work no matter what time of year, I'll always put it on. And if I put it on, I'll always venture at the tail of a pool on a glide, square cast across sometimes a downstream end, depending on the speed of the water, and handline it and watch it like a hawk. And like Ian and Scott have said, you will be amazed how far a fish, if you're fishing in that glide, because you can see them, will move to come for that fly. And even if you don't get a hookup, it just keeps you going. That's why I love using it. And it's, especially for guests, it's great when the guests are getting a little bit kind of fed up or it's been a slower day. If you can get some of that movement, it kind of just lifts their spirits, lifts their heart rate. That's for me anyway. I don't know if the guys and girls agree.
Yeah. And when we've lost Dani, she has actually said good night because her connection's not been very good. And I've got Simon still here as well, but every time I put Simon into the feed, we can't actually see him. So if he can pop out and then come back in again, we can actually get him into the feed. But the one thing I was going to ask you about the sunray is what speed are you fishing a sunray, Ian?
Is that to me? Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, guys. I mean, I fish at different speeds, so I think I just fish it pretty much the same way as I would fish. Well, not exactly the same way as I would fish conventional flies, because I vary everything. You know, every time I cast, I try and vary the angle of my cast. And with the sunray, I was thinking. When I'm fishing, I'm thinking I'm in a zone, you know, and each zone is about the length of the rod, and every time I take a step, so about 4 steps to cover the length of the rod, then I'll never fish the same cast twice in that area. So and like I say, I call it zonal fishing, because one cast I might go square, and I might strip it really quite quickly. The next cast I'll go. Cast it at a shallower angle downstream. I'll fish it slowly. I might just do a figure 8 on it. That next one, I might just go absolutely dead square and fish it really fast as well. So there's something. I think salmon really like something different, and you know, if they're seeing this thing coming round exactly the same cast every time, then I think in the past when you had hundreds of salmon in a pool, you were spoiled. You know, these fish would have come up and you would have taken plenty of fish doing that. But nowadays, when you've only got limited numbers in the pool, then you have to start thinking like a hunter and vary it. Just vary the speed all the time. You get to know, you know. And that's my experience. So, of fishing in general and the sunray as well, you know.
And Scott, we do have a question from Rodriguez. Oh gosh, wrong one. There we go. It says, what line do you recommend that sinks fast and is easy to use in windy conditions? He says, I'm sorry for asking so much, is that I'm on the other side of the world, which he literally is. And huge thank you again, Rodriguez, for tuning in. I especially put this show on at this time, so at least you could tune in as well, by the way. So, Scott, what line do you recommend?
Well, in the Rio Sereno, when I was there, we were trying to fish as deep as we could. It was quite unique because the king salmon were right on the bottom of this very, very deep, fairly steady, fast-flowing river. So it was quite extreme. We do one line, an intermediate sink 6, which will get down. I use it in Norway quite a lot. It's one of these lines that it's worth having in your tackle box with you. One of my customers this year took one to Alta, and I sorted them out with some bits and pieces to go to Alta, and said, look, take that as a just in case. And you ended up getting some fantastic fish. You got one salmon of 52 pounds on it on Alta. We do an intermediate 6-6. Some of the Skagit lines nowadays are very good because they get out and they get down very quickly. So something like a Skagit line with a T18 tip, or if you even go to T20 tip, so out and fast. We do a Skagit line with a T18 tip. So that's about 11 inches a second, give or take. So it's almost a foot a second. So that is getting down. So I would say intermediate sink 6 or a Skagit with really, really heavy tips to get it down and quickly. And that's the same for a lot of the South American fishing, Patagonia, where you've got not so much in the Sereno because it's a big even flow, but when you're fishing for the sea trout, you're quite often in a deep channel on the far bank, and it's important to get that fly in, down, and fishing very quickly. And that's where your Skagit lines have transformed fishing. Really, they really, really work really well. So again, if you want to tell them or anyone listening, if they want any info on any tackle, please email me or message me. I'm an easy man to get a hold of, and to be honest, I'm not going to be doing much for the next week, Wiley. So if you've any questions, please ask away. I'd be more than happy to do stuff after this evening. Yeah.
And can I ask a question? Because you've mentioned Skagit lines. For somebody that's new to salmon fishing, that's new to using a double-handed rod, how easy is it to cast a Skagit line? Because you're talking tips that are moving fast through the watercourse, aren't you, as well?
Yeah, I'm a spey man. I do like the longer heads. I'm probably me and Ian we grew up in a different culture where we lifted a lot, and that's what bred the big casters, is lifting these long heads and being able the ability and the skill to lift these long heads and shoot some line. And when these single tapered long spey lines come in, we really knew how to manage them and cast them. And that's where we were getting some crazy distances and breaking records. Grant's record that stood for 110 years. So Skagit, am I a lover of Skagits? No, but there is a serious time and place for them. Is it for a beginner in the UK? I would prefer the on the shooting head, slightly longer, still very, very manageable, but it's not got the a Skagit's a short, dumpy shooting head, and it's not very good for presentation. So if you're just starting off, okay, you can bring it round and cast it quite easy, fine. But with just a little bit more practice, you'll soon manage to get a shooting head round, and it's a little bit more delicate. And just Skagits are fine when you're wanting to get that fly out and down deep and you've got heavy tip on. A Skagit's not a line to be fished really for me as a full floater. I was fortunate to be gillying through the kind of when would it have been sort of just before the turn of the century, so about 98, 99, 2000. I was good for over 20 years, but around that time, and that's when the windcutter lines came out. They were the first single tapered spey lines to come on the market. I think they were the first one that came out. I think they were 53 feet, and I knew we had the same guests every year, and I know what Mr. and Mrs. So-and-so could cast. And I normally, at that time we were casting quite long-headed spey lines, 75 foot, 85 foot headed lines. and maybe it's only time 1 week a year they fish. So Monday, which is normally the best day because whatever's been rested, and then historically the nets were off over the weekend, allowed more salmon. So Monday, Tuesday were always the best days, and they were trying to get up to speed with their casting because they hadn't probably cast for a year. And I noticed how easy people were managing with these new single taper spay line, because they were getting the distance, they were getting up to speed quicker, and they were also throwing that extra 5-10 yards extra, which on rivers like the Spey, the Ness, the bigger, wider rivers can make a difference. Not always a big distance, but there is times where that extra 5 yards can cover that bit more water, and it does make a difference.
Well, I'm going to ask Ali, which I'm going to unmute you because there you go, you're unmuted. So, and then I'm going to ask Ian Gordon. Lines, what's your favourite lines, Ali?
I was actually I used to love Skagit lines, funny enough, Anne, when I was fishing down on the Tweed, because predominantly my fishing was back-end fishing because I paid for a lot of fishing, so it was cheaper for me to fish then. And obviously on the upper reaches of the Tweed, you got a bigger back-end run. But I really like the shooting heads because I can interchange my tip. If I'm fishing on a river in conditions that are changing, whether that be water height, weather conditions, temperature, the width of the river, the depths of the pools. But now I'm living back up in the Highlands, I have to say I've gone back towards, I'm migrating back towards some of the rivers that I fish are very small, single-hand fishing or switch rods or small double-handed rods. And I'm fishing a lot more integrated lines, and because I find the presentation's a lot better, and I can bring the fly right into me. So like Scotty was mentioning there, when I've been up with Scotty on the Ness, you're covering a big bit of water. I want to be right out there, and I'm not as good as these guys. So I need all the tricks in the toolbox that I can get. But like I say, my type of fishing, small river fishing, and when I'm fishing small rivers, I love an integrated line because I can change very quickly. And if I need to, I can kind of add a wee poly leader on as well, if needs must, or change my fly weight as well.
And Ian, we've also got a question as well from Mike Fox, which says, what length of shooting head would you recommend? But again, that's going to be applicable to your length of your rod, isn't it?
It is, and a wee bit with the technique that you use as well. There's not quite enough made of that, I don't think, because I mean, when the shooting heads came out first, they assumed that everyone used the rod in exactly the same way, you know. But as Scotty will certainly know about, because he's a master of that, opening up the casting window and letting the rod drift back a little. Now, for most of us here in Scotland, we would use that technique. So the rod would start from a little further back than what was taught in Scandinavia, for instance. And so the ideal sort of head length for shooting heads, if you're using maybe a 13, 14 foot rod, it's like somewhere about 40 feet long. If you were using the traditional Scandi type style, which is the proper underhand style as it was taught by Gordon Anderson, I believe. And however, our styles tend to be a bit more open, and because it is, then that shorter shooting heads, a lot of people initially anyway had a bit of trouble with the line skipping the anchor and ending up with a fly up a tree and da-di-da-di-da. Personally, I like a shooting head. I like the system. I'm definitely with Ali in the camp. What would I prefer to fish? I would prefer to fish a line with an integrated head. But that's just my personal preference, for the same reasons as Ali has just said. But I think for most people, I would say a slightly longer shooting head's better, because I mean, of all the people I know and have seen fishing with the underhand technique, I would say only a very small percentage of them do it really well, you know, as it should be done. And most open up that sort of casting arc again with the rod. And so for me, I would think something about 46-7 feet is a really, really good length for a shooting head. When I get them, every single shooting head, first thing I do is usually put on a tip onto them, and that makes them 10 times better.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
Yeah.
But that's just because it suits my technique. And most of the rod design is based around that longer stroke as well, not that short one. But that's quite an interesting thing as well.
Well, I am going to ask one last question to all of you. Actually, I've got two, sorry. We have Oliver Taylor. I'm going to ask Mark Coburn this one first. Hello, Mark. You're still there.
Well, listen to the chat. It's great, as always. Yeah, you always learn the experts, you know, it's good.
You really do. What's your bucket list fish on the fly?
As in river to fish?
No, your fish. What fish do you want to catch?
Yeah, I'm a salmon man, I'm afraid. I grew up like most people in my local small burn, and I fished for trout all my life, but I just love fishing for the salmon. And this year in particular, the joy of fishing again for a grouse run, that was just top dog. During, you know, early in the morning before the sun comes up, and fishing the D in particular, I was then with a pool stuffed with the grouse. And, you know, I can't remember the last time I said that, you know, I sort of pool stuff with grouse. So that would be my first choice, yeah. And can't get enough of it, and as you well know, yeah, every month of the year, hopefully it's somewhere trying my best to try and hook one. It doesn't always work, but when it does, God, it's great fun, isn't it?
And Scott, what about you?
Bucket list, as in something new, I'd love to get more into the saltwater fishing. I think some of that giant trevally and some of that, you know, the bone fishing, some of that looks really good fun. I've only done a little bit of that in the past, and for something new, different, that's something that's certainly on my radar for that. It's something that I've not done much of, and I think you would, pardon the pun, but you'll definitely get hooked on that. You know, you could. But yeah, it's normal. But back to the salmon, is echoing what Mark says. You know, right in Scott, we're fortunate here. I'm living up here in the Highlands, so you know, there's more rivers than I can rhyme off here within a very short drive of me. And I also love my Norway fishing. I go up there every year, myself and my son, and we've had some fantastic fishing there for bigger fish, not numbers. You know, it's fair to say that there's probably more salmon in Scotland than there is in Norway. But for getting the quality, you know, big fish, certainly that's always a trip we look forward to every year, sort of thing. So yeah, just salmon, but I fancy dip my toe into the old salt water as well, a bit more too. Yeah.
Well, you went with Hal Morgan a few years ago to Mauritius, didn't you?
We did. We got one of the travel companies asked us to go out to see what the fishing was like, and paid absolutely everything: 5-star accommodation, food, drink, flights, even paid my part at the airport. And it was just absolutely fantastic. I was there for a week fishing, and I talk about you know, because we're very fortunate. You know, I'm get invites literally all over the world, and but that was Beachcomber holidays they were, and they do some fantastic holidays to Seychelles and Mauritius, and a fantastic company. And so myself, how we did, I had £140 tuna, and we lost a couple of marlin, and we had various other species. But we had a fantastic trip. We really did, yeah.
I know, that's lovely. Ali, what Oliver's question? What's your bucket list fish on the fly?
Sorry, I'm like Ian Gordon. I've gone visual on Scotty and Hal Morgan in bikinis in Mauritius together on a boat.
I remember seeing it.
I can't concentrate. I'm starting to think about whales on the fly. But no, sorry, Scotty. This is a bit corny, but I'm a bit like Mark and got a salmon anywhere in a country that I've not been to before, just to keep my lesson and my experience going. But I really, really fancy trying for a peacock bass or an arapaima per aracu on the fly as well, on somewhere like the Rio Negro or somewhere over in the Amazon somewhere, and I probably will give that a bash. Unlike Scotty, I've not got beachcomber beating my door down offering me a trip to the Amazon, but I'm quite sure if I save my pennies and tie enough intruders, I might be able to send myself out. But yeah, salmon anywhere in the world that I've not been, but if not, peacock bass and arapaima on the fly.
Oh, and Ian, obviously you weren't invited to the beachcomber trip, were you?
No, I kind of blotted my copybook. Every year I would go down to their bar and drink them out of their drink at the game fair. I never got any of that kind of stuff. I think they get pissed off watching Stevie Munn and I lying pissed on the sand. But no, they're a great company, as Scotty said. They're and really, really good people. No, bucket list. I'm pretty much the same as Scott for species that I haven't caught. I really fancy the saltwater thing. I think that looks really, really good. And I have to do that before too long. But travel's not just going to be quite as easy in the next wee while, I don't think. But anyway, we'll see what happens. But my favourite fish, I'm a sea trout man. I would put it for myself personally above the salmon, just because of the whole ambience of being there in the dark. Not so much in the South American thing, because I just my whole perception of sea trout fishing is just really calm, balmy nights with the light going and all the different sounds of the dark kind of coming up and the different scents that you get on the river. It's a magical place to be at that time, and the great thing about the sea trout fishing as well is that you tend to get quite a lot. There's quite a lot of action, so you can go down for an hour, and if the sea trout are there in good numbers and they're on the take, you can get 6, 8, 10 takes in an hour, and it's just magic. It used to be when I was younger, I would stay out the whole night. I would encourage all the guests to go. I mean, I love fishing, but my job is putting people on to fish and seeing them happy catching fish. It sounds a bit corny. It's not. It's exactly what I like to do. And when you can get them into sea trout fishing, all they need to do is be able to cast a half decent line, confident in the dark. I could talk about this the whole night, but I just love it. And when you see them getting into these sea trout and the reels all going, it's just magic, absolutely magic. But the sense of anticipation, if you have because that's basically what fishing is, I mean, if Scotty and me were going away to some place to catch our first permit or whatever, the anticipation of the whole thing begins at home. For everybody that goes fishing, it's exactly the same. So it starts at home, and then they get to the river, and as guides and gillies, we can build that up. We can get them into a frenzy before they put the fly in the water, so they're just super excited, and that for me is sea trout fishing. Just in that sort of first hour after the dark, it's just absolutely out of this planet. That's what I really, really like. Love it,
Oh, fantastic. Well, I've got a last question. And before I ask the last question, I'd like to say hello to Davy Newell. So hi, Davy, and Happy New Year to you. Now, James came on with this question right at the start of this live, and huge thank you to everybody that's watched the live as well. And I hope you've enjoyed it with just the variety of guests we've actually had. Obviously, I'm going to ask you, Mark, because we've dealt with, and we're currently dealing with, again, for people we've sold permits to in England and also to Scotland, about the fact that with the current situation of a lot of the country, England, Wales, Scotland, Ireland, that's now in tier 4. Will this lockdown now be worse than the March lockdown? And do you think, and I'm going to ask this to everybody as well, do you think the fishing will be stopped to the extent it was last year? Crystal ball time, please.
Yeah, I was just thinking that. We get asked that kind of question every day, don't we, Anne, in the office? What's for sure is we're going to probably be writing off January. That's for a start. So those who are dead keen to get up to the Helmsdale or onto the Tay for opening day, I really can't see us being anywhere near a river, because of the travel restrictions till at least the very end of January. What I'm kind of praying for, and I really mean this, is that it maybe gets back to normal from the 1st of February, because that's quite a significant date with the Dee and the Tweed in particular opening up, and then quickly followed by the Spey thereafter. So the big rivers, where the most of the guys go fishing from February, that'd be my dream, for it to happen. And with the vaccine, perhaps, just starting to get rolled out, there's probably more optimism than there was, March last year. But it is a crystal ball one, and they seem to be wanting to just keep it tighter and tighter until they finally actually, are comfortable with just, where we are and what we're doing, and we've vaccinated everybody. So fingers crossed we get back, as I say, possibly in February, but probably not for January. That's going to be a bit of a write-off, I'm afraid.
And Ian, what's your thoughts? Because you're up on the Spey, and that obviously all three of you are quite not too far away from each other, are you? So what's your thoughts about the lockdown that's in Scotland? Are you going to go out fishing?
I mean, it's a really difficult one. It's a frustrating one, Anne, because I mean all the trips and the fishing events that I sort of host are organised way back. I mean, this first one, which for me is the last week in February, and that's at Gilly. That was organised way back in September, so you're thinking at that time, my thoughts were, okay, I knew the spike was coming for sure. Anybody that looks at that would have known it was going to come. But I didn't really expect it to be going on. And certainly this new strain is a wee bit of a worry. Seems to be a bit more contagious. However, on a positive note, I think that the medical people are dealing with it much, much better. We're much better prepared for it now. And I think, again, moving on, as the vaccine comes into everybody gets it, or most people get it, then I think it'll give us a wee bit more flexibility for freedom of movement as well. And I think for people coming like fishing, if you could have like a passport situation whereby once you've had the vaccine for moving, if you can then just jump into your car and you're going from A to B and you're fishing, then hopefully, people might see a wee bit of sense in that, because the chances of that type of person spreading the thing is especially if they've been vaccinated against it, is pretty minimal, I would have thought. So I mean, I've got a very positive outlook on it. I think we'll all be fishing, but certainly by March we'll be fishing. I really hope that, and hopefully from a fishing perspective, we shall see we're leaving it well behind from there. I'm trying to get into my head that I'm leaving it behind now. I mean, I know I'm a realist as well. I know that I might be, could be a bit of a problem the first part of the year, but I'm thinking that we'll all be fishing. That's what I want to be looking at anyway.
And what about you, Scott? Because obviously you're a manufacturer as well, and with the country closing, and if your rods are coming in from abroad, and also as well is the fact that we've just finally left Europe. You've got a lot to contend with at the moment.
I used to worry about going grey, and now I'm just glad I've got something here, because a company, you pull your hair out, you really would, and then it's all these things behind the scenes that you don't think about, and trying to get stuff shipped at the moment is just crazy. I'll be here all night if I start talking about shipping, but it's but no, it is. But we rely on the shows to promote the tackle and all that, and I think we have to. The medical people have to be congratulated to getting a vaccine made so quickly. They really do. But what has to happen next is equally important, that the governments, people in charge, get the thing out so everyone can get a job. We need, that's the only way where it's going to free it up. You know, it really is. It's still looming there. Will people from the South England want to travel up to Scotland in the current thing? No. But once we get the vaccine and everyone gets a job and we can start putting this thing to bed, so to speak, it's we will. So I think Mark was right. January's going to be a write-off. February, I've got fishing booked on the Green for the 1st of February, so let's hope we're doing there. But from a business point of view, you know, first chance I get will be on the plane to Iceland, probably May, and then hoping to get to Norway in July, and then Canada after that. So I've got a lot planned this year, but it'll have to be if it's safe to do so, and if it goes with that. But I think we're in for a wee bit yet. But here, there's a big light at the end of that tunnel, and we can see it. And then so just everyone be patient and just stay safe for a little longer, because it's, you know, when you saw the vaccine coming, everyone thought, oh, that's it, the vaccine's coming, but it's not. It's coming with a wee bit of a kick, a wee bit of sting in the tail with this new virus or new mutation of the virus. But it's not going to be long, and you know, hopefully we'll be doing this time next year, and we're talking about, you know, a distant memory of COVID, for sure. Yeah. And
Ali, you and your fiance are also in country sports as well. So tell us your thoughts as well.
Yeah, it's difficult coming last because it's probably just been said by everybody on the panel, Anne, but you know, we're no different to Scott, no different to Ian, no different to yourself and Mark, that people from all over the world want to come to Scotland and come to the UK for a reason, because it's one of the nicest places in the world to come in general anyway. And obviously living in Scotland and have done, you know, almost my entire 51 years on the planet, that it's one of the most beautiful countries in the world as well. So when you have a business that's connected to that, and we all on the panel do, that as soon as there's any imposition on movement of people that take part in that industry, then it has a knock-on effect. However, I would say that Mark started off on a really positive note about what we learned from last year about what the restriction did to us, and then the willingness of people then to take part in a sport and took part in it in mass. Ian touched on it and Scott touched on it as well. Every single person on this panel and every single person that's sending a message in today and on future live panels that we've all done love this sport for a reason, because we're very, very passionate about it. And as soon as you're very passionate about something, when there's an adversity, in my own opinion, with my professional side, a different job, is that as soon as you're faced with an adversity, you become very creative. And as long as like Scott says, as long as everybody's patient and we do it right, then I think it could look very positive for the sport. Certainly more people engaging in the sport. We've got more new people engaging in the sport. And we should have learned a lot from 2019, and I think we all have. I mean, look at what we're doing tonight. This is really now not a new thing. But if you'd said we were going to do this 18 months ago, we would have been shaking our heads saying, what are you playing at? And so, yeah, I personally have got a very positive spin on it. I think if you're passionate about something, you will find a legal, safe way to do it.
Well, we've just had Mike Fox has actually asked for another couple of hours. Mark, obviously FishPal, we are back to work on Monday, and literally, you know, what are you going to be saying to customers on Monday that are contacting us at the moment, aren't they?
Yeah, a lot of the contacts just now are for spring onwards type fishing anyway. So, you know, that for me, spring's the best time of the year to be on the river. So there's a lot of inquiries just now about, you know, where can I fish, where will we go, and there's so much availability on the site just now, and more coming on almost every day. We'll keep these guys happy as best we possibly can. And hopefully it's only January we have to worry about, and we're getting back to some sort of normality from February or round about February onwards. So I'm absolutely with Ali. I'm quite optimistic for this season. Not so much in how many fish might be in the river and how many fish we might caught, but just physically getting us back out there again. And that's the most important thing of all. And just whilst you've got me on here, a huge thanks to the panels tonight. You know, that's a couple of goes by. You know that. I love when these guys get on and start talking stories. And actually, after just after an hour, 2 hours, he's quite right. We could probably go on forever because there's just so many good things to talk about. And that's why we love our sports so much. I think Ali summed it up perfectly in his last week comment there as well. So a really big appreciate for you guys coming on, and absolutely for you too, Anne. You're a great servant to FishPal, obviously, and you love your job. I know that. But you've got a real spirit about you that gets us all want to come on and be abused by you at times when we have to be and laugh when we do you too. So huge thanks.
Oh, well, can I just let you know, everybody, I think StreamYard are kicking us out at the moment, everybody, because this is the second time I've just been kicked out. Before I go, if you haven't purchased a River D snood, definitely get one, because I absolutely love this. And I know Mark's got his as well. So they're amazing. Love them. And don't forget, please tag a friend and like it. So you'll actually win the chance of winning a book, fishing mug, fishing posters, and the latest FishPal hat that even my boss hasn't seen, and some lanyards. So don't forget to tag a friend. And huge thank you to all the guests that have been on this evening. We've had Gilly Bate, Paul Procter, Pete Tyas, Allan Liddle, Alex Jardine. We've had Simon Barnes, who's still in the feed, and I'm so sorry I haven't been able to pull you back in, but we'll have a chat later. We've also had Allan Liddle, we've had Ali Hutchins, Steffan Jones, Scott Mackenzie, Ian Gordon, and my boss, Mark Cockburn. I have covered everybody, haven't I? Because we've actually had a lot of guests. So huge thank you, everybody. And thank you, everybody, for watching and popping everything into the feed. And we've got to stay positive, haven't we, Mark? Final words.
Yeah. Deadlines, everybody, for 2021. Here we go again.
All the best.
I think we do. Yeah, definitely. Well done, guys. Cheers.